Hello everybody, welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law. And today we're going to be talking about productivity for lawyers. I've made a lot of videos on this, but I suppose they were kind of 2 years ago before COVID, and yeah, things have certainly changed now because there's no more commuting. I'm at home every day and there's different distractions. So I made a list of a few of the things that I do, and they certainly have helped. I always ask myself, one of the things I ask myself is, so I do like a yearly review on the 31st of December of a year where I look back on every month and see what I did. And that's actually one of the things I use to motivate myself. So I ask myself, okay, if I'm looking back on this month, on the 31st of December, would I be proud of myself? And like, of course, not every month is productive. So for example, in this year, June and July for me were work-wise very unproductive, but in my personal life were very productive. And that's how you basically carve it up. You accept that some months are going to be disastrous for your personal life, and then that some months are going to be great for your professional life, and vice versa. And I think if you accept that and aren't so rigid, you can be very, very productive on the whole, because obviously being productive is a spectrum. It's something that happens over time. And it's something you need to maintain and be consistent at. Like, you don't want to be productive one year and not the next, because they just cancel each other out. And I've said this before, but probably the two main tenets of productivity in my eyes are essentialism or minimalism, and then the other one is rest and oscillation, which means that it's like sprints or bursts. You do something intensely, like the Pomodoro technique. And if you remember, I interviewed Terry Gorey and he did the same thing, where you do intensive bursts of work for whatever, 25 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you take a good chunk of a break. And that's certainly how I do it. And it's like also reward. So you reward yourself for every time you do that intense focus, where the phone is on airplane mode, you're in your room, your place where you can just do your work and you get it done, and then you reward yourself. And I think that's the key to it. But anyway, I've made a few notes, so listen up. So the first one is clarity, and how you get clarity is you know your why. So there's no point being a lawyer if you don't know why you want to be a lawyer. You don't know what value you want to bring to the world. So that's a very broad topic, and it's actually very fundamental to your productivity, because essentially you will never be productive, you will never produce if you don't know why you're doing any of it. You'll be very easily distracted and led astray by small things if you don't know. So it's just like when you're driving your car and you see lots of things like, if you don't have a plan of what your ultimate destination is, you're not going to get there. You're going to be pulled in every direction. So for example, what I do is I always say, okay, like, what is it I want to achieve this year? And then understand that every single month will be like ingredients in the bowl of the recipe of what I want to achieve. And I accept that nothing happens overnight, that everything is a gradual process, and that sometimes you're going to go backwards before you go forward. But as long as you accept that, that's very much helpful. So know your why and be very, very don't growl. Know your why and be very, very clear on your destination. There's a lovely quote that says that if a man or a woman knows not the course of their ship, no destination is favourable. Which basically means that if you haven't set your course, you're ultimately going to lose. And that's very, very true. So the next thing is, what is your scope? So you have to decide what you aren't doing this year, or what you're not going to be part of your production process. So for me, what I do is I write all my ideas down, so they all get written down, and then I go through them. I go, yeah, okay, I'll do that this year, I'll do that in 2022, that'll be 2023. And because then what I do is I give my mind some certainty over what will happen and what will not happen at all. And that really helps, because then what you do is you just put that idea to one side and you can focus on the things that are important right now. And that really helps. That's what I would call scope. And then the next big area is the actual process of production. All of this seems very technical, but it's very, very simple really. So in order to have a process, you need to know the inputs very well. So for example, with me, the input is me, like my time and energy. And I know that my energy peaks very much in the morning time. So I build a process around the morning time and having a plan. I also know that I don't like deciding on things. So it's better that I have it planned the night before. So what I do is, I'll show you here. So every evening I will plan in my notebook what I'm going to do the next day, so that when the next day comes, I have no decision making to do. And that's how I like to operate, because when I look at the input, which is me, I'm an impulsive person who gets easily distracted. So I know the input very well. And that means that I need rigidity when it comes to a working day, but also I'll need a break at the weekend, for example, because if I do too much of this, I'll get disillusioned with life. So you have to know yourself very well, just like Socrates said. And if you know yourself very well and you know your limitations, you know your weaknesses, you know when you get hungry, you know when you get tired, you know when you get stressed, the more you know yourself, and that comes from spending a lot of time with yourself and understanding how you work, and not copying or following other people, then you will become more productive for you, because not everybody has high energy in the morning time. Not everybody has high energy at lunchtime. Not everybody has the same appetite. You know, not everyone needs to eat all the time and all of that stuff. So not everybody needs to do sport all the time. So for example, I need to do sport to burn off some steam, but not everybody needs to do that. Some people burn off steam by watching a series or doing yoga or something. The more you know yourself, the more productive you will become. Okay, so then the next area is self-discipline. So this is part of the process, self-discipline, because without discipline there is no freedom. And what I mean by what's his name? Jocko, you know, that kind of beefy guy who was in the army. He was always on the Joe Rogan podcast. Well, yeah, Jocko Willink, I think is his name. He harps on about discipline and freedom, and I never really understood it until I started my own business and I started seeing the reward. Because for the first 2 years I had to be disciplined and get my ebooks made, get my website made, get it all set up, and it seemed like it was going nowhere because nobody was buying my ebooks, nobody cared. And but I had to keep going, because eventually I was like, okay, I'll make a sale. And then that's freedom, because once you have started and once you have built what you want to build, you're free to go on and do other things. That's how I interpret what that means, that discipline means freedom. And the other thing as well is discipline opens doors to you. For example, having the discipline to train for a marathon or train for a triathlon, or have a 9-to-5. The freedom comes in, like financial freedom, for example, freedom in that you have dominion over your body and what you're putting into it and how you're exercising it, means that eventually you're going to have good health. That's to me what discipline is, freedom means. So, discipline seems to be like a dirty word, that it's some kind of punishment, but actually what it's doing is setting you up for a brighter future. That sounds really corny, but it is really the truth. And again, this comes down to your knowledge of your own biology and chemistry and your hormones. So for example, if you're somebody like me who is easily distracted and, you know, like loves to have fun and dance around and all of that, and could do that all day and just watch YouTube, I need to reduce all of those inputs, as in, like, as I said, put the phone on airplane mode, like even put the phone out of the room sometimes, just because I want to be there now. I want to be talking to other people. I don't want to be working continuously, but I've trained myself to do it, just like a dog. And the same is with delayed gratification. It's purely a habit. And if you have read Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit, or the habit loop, as he calls it, the cue, routine, reward. For me, delayed gratification is cue, routine, reward, because the cue is, you know you have some value that you can deliver to the world, and that what you have is of, can help others. The routine is the process, and the reward is what you get for that. But the reward is the delayed gratification. And because we live in such an instant society where, if you go on your app, you can get a date, you can get like ASOS delivery, you can get Deliveroo, Just Eat, just at the click of a finger. This is in contradiction to delayed gratification, and it's why a lot of people don't necessarily do well, because they want to see results overnight. But with like true lasting wealth and success, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's a cliche, but it's true. Okay, so the next one is goal setting, and goal setting has just been done so many times. All I'm going to say on goal setting is, if your goal isn't strong enough, it won't pull you through those moments where you want to give up. So for example, with me, with Law Hero, the goal was so strong that I was able to pull through those, my eyes going back in my head from writing 50 pages of an ebook. Because I was like, okay, if I get this done, this will help someone somewhere. And that was strong enough to pull me through it. I have started things where my goal wasn't strong enough and I just left it. I'll be very honest about that. So for example, I tried to pick my violin up again during lockdown, and I did. It lasted a few weeks. I was back playing some of the pieces I used to play when I was a kid, but I had no real goal. It was just more like out of boredom. It was a pastime. I wasn't too invested in it. Same with golf. I have no real goal around golf. I just play it because my family plays it, and therefore I will never be a good golfer. It's as simple as that. It's because I don't have a goal, and it's not a priority for me. And when people ask me, why aren't you out golfing, you have new golf clothes, I'm just like, it's not a priority. So I think it's goals and priorities are basically the same. Okay, now the final thing I'm going to speak about is deep work and shallow work. Obviously, the terms were coined by Professor Cal Newport, and he is such a genius, and he has there's so many good podcasts with him. Like, check him out if you haven't done so, because basically everything I learned about deep and shallow work and about productivity comes from him. So deep work is like, for example, writing an ebook. It's something lasting, it's something of value. It takes a lot of concentration. Same if you write an essay for college or a master thesis or something like that. It's something of value that you'll have for years, that is timeless essentially. Whereas shallow work is responding to an email, one line answer, something that basically could have been said over the phone, something, I'm not going to say worthless, but something of very little value that in the grander scheme of things doesn't contribute to your overall goal. So let me say that again. Shallow work is something in the grander scheme of things does not contribute to your overall goals. So let me give you an example. And the best way to do it is to pool your shallow work together. So, bless you. So shallow work, obviously you have to do some shadow work in your life. So for example, taking out the bins, answering emails, taking your bike for a service, taking your car for a service, because if you don't maintain the small things, they become big things over time. So stitch in time saves 9. They're kind of the shadow work things that would take you 5 or 10 minutes, small things. So the best thing to do is batch your shadow work, and that comes from Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week. So for example, you batch your answering of emails, you batch your housework. If you need to get repairs done, you do it all at the same time. So for example, with me, if I need to leave the house, I will schedule 5 or 6 things to be done when I leave the house. Also because I have to leave the puppy behind and it's not fair on him. So for example, if I leave the house, I'll go to the recycling centre, I'll do my grocery shopping, I'll go for a swim, I'll go to the post office, bank, all in one go, so that I don't have to go in different intervals, and you learn how to do that over time. So that's, to me, that's all shadow work. It's stuff I have to do. It's not that important, but if I don't do it, it can become a mess. Then the deep work then is, for example, like this YouTube channel and researching stuff for that, stuff that's of value, and it'll be here much longer than the other stuff I just spoke about. So practically, the things I can say to you is to avoid shallow work. So keep everything organized as you go along, maintain folder structure as best you can on your computer so that you don't have to spend time looking for things. The more organized you are, the less time you will lose doing shallow work like that, and the more time you will have to do deep work, which is productive work, which will ultimately gain you what you need, like your main goals. Battery went on my camera. So my final tip is that you have to recognize that you only have a finite amount of willpower, and that's why I say you have to know yourself very well, because some people have far stronger willpower than others. It's just how they're built. Whereas me, for example, my willpower diminishes as the day goes on. And that's actually the case for most people. If any of you have read the new book Noise by Daniel Kahneman, he talks about how you know, the noise in your decision making increases as the day goes on. That's why, for example, if you are heard, like if you're in court and your case is heard later in the day, you have less of a chance of being successful. Yeah, so essentially you're battling your desires all day long, and you have to be cognizant of that in order to be productive. And one of the quotes he says in the book is that deep work only comes from rock solid routines, and this comes from self-control. Getting things done is called execution. So in the book, so this puppy just slept for 2 hours, so now he's very energetic. Let me just get you a toy. It's about the 4 disciplines of execution. And this is basically the 4 things you can do to make sure you get things done. So the first thing you do is focus on the wildly important, as in the things that will add to your overall goals. And basically, like I said, the more you try to cover, the less you actually get done. So you have to basically say no to certain things and push them out to the following year. Then he talks about lag and lead measures. So these are how you calculate success. So lag is what you are ultimately trying to improve, and lead is the new measures which will drive your success. Keep a compelling scorecard. So some people have like habit trackers. Some people like to have lists that they tick off. It doesn't really matter, but you should keep some kind of a score to measure what you got done in any given day. And then the final one is create a cadence of accountability. And I told you I do this at the very end of the year when I look to see what I actually achieved. And I always know you know, that the 31st of December is coming up and that I will be looking back on every month. So it kind of does actually help. I do the exact same in triathlons. Like when I'm in the race, I think to myself, okay, when I'm reading the scores afterwards, what will be my swim time? What will be my bike time? What will be my run time? So yeah. So yeah, that those are my tips on productivity. The puppy stayed asleep for most of it, which was good, but now he just wants to cuddle and chew. So sorry about that if he was annoying for the last bit of it, but yeah, I think it was good that he was asleep for most of it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and stay productive whatever you have to do, and don't forget to contact me if you're having any little crisis or anything like that. I'm here for all of you. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.